Just kidding. All right, let's get to some news.
What are we talking about?
Let's talk about one of the biggest talking points out of AEW Grand Slam, oddly enough, was that weird 16 by 16 ring. Or was it weird? I don't know. I've been dying to hear what you guys think about this. So let's get to it. The 16 by 16 ring, was it weird or not?
Before I let Draven cook on this, let's just make something clear. AEW's ring just didn't get there in time. All right, it was shipped. Shipping's finicky sometimes. Sometimes you don't get your shit. So it's not like they left America and was like, fuck it, we'll just deal with the ring later. No, it was shipped. It should have been there, and it didn't get there. So they had to use an indie ring. As far as the size being weird, no. We've wrestled in tons of places with 16 by 16 rings. You don't see them on TV often, but it's definitely, especially those guys in AEW who still work the indies, they work all the time in 16-foot rings.
Fair. I that was one of the things that I wondered. Did this even affect the matches at all? The answer is no. I didn't watch the show, but from what I hear, the matches were amazing, and it was because of that. I knew a lot of these guys are used to probably working that size ring anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But my thing is, in that whole entire country of Australia, how big that fucking place is, they couldn't find the equipment necessary for a regular size ring.
So this is more of a geography lesson at this point. So with Australia, there's a lot of cities around the coast, right? There's very little like on the inland. So with the way that goes, it's like one main highway. So there's always going to be traffic and shit. The issue is that it was a short notice. They only had like a 12 to 16 hour time frame to find a ring period, get it approved, and get it fucking sent over. And Kyle Fletcher, God bless that man for working his ass off to find this ring, was able to find one from one of his old independent promotions and get it put in. Now, here's the thing with a lot of the fucking haters and shit, because I saw quite a few on your TikTok and shit, especially on the social medias when you were posting them. Dark, I've been doing this 15 years full time, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the one thing I do? And you know me because you've asked me about it. What's the one thing I do when I get to a venue, regardless if I've worked there 1,000 times or it's the first time walking in? What's the first thing I go do?
Walk the ring.
Walk the fucking ring. Get a feel for that son of a bitch. Hit the fucking ropes. It don't matter, you know, if I was fucking Ric Flair, I'm still gonna do the same shit. Now, unfortunately, there was an injury from the show, Buddy Matthews, who rolled his ankle during his entrance. Now, could that be from padding being misplaced? Possibly. But again, unlike an AEW ring, which has like one continuous roll of padding, most independent rings, they're in sections, like puzzle pieces. You got to put them together, squeeze them together, and put the canvas on. And sometimes, yes, mid-show, they do start separating. Is it something the ring crew could have, overlooked? Yes, absolutely. They're not used to working an independent ring. So for, that to happen, it's a freak accident, but it happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to Dark. It's happened to damn near anybody in this business who's ever worked any sort of independent show. Another thing that I saw was the criticism about the ring steps. And again, this goes back to Kyle Fletcher using what's available. And sometimes less is more. And for me, seeing an independent ring with basic ass steps, let's call it what it is, it was kind of refreshing because it showed that at least most of the talent can still work this. And let's not forget, one person who should have been uncomfortable as fucking there was more comfortable than most of the other guys, and that was Copeland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was only able to watch the highlights because I don't fucking follow AEW religiously, and unless somebody wants to give me a fucking Max subscription free for a year, I'm probably not going to fucking pay for it. Dark's the AEW guy. I'm the WWE guy / indie guy. That's how it works. It works fucking well. But he was, I would say, more comfortable in that 16-footer than he was in a 20. So all this criticism about, AEW couldn't afford to get a ring. Here's the issue. That ring was not getting flown. It was getting shipped. That is like a week and a half to 2 week shipping from California to Australia, not including storms, not including weather conditions. So for it to be one of those situations of it's just not going to get there in time, use what you got. And from what I saw, it actually made the show feel a little more, what's the phrase, organic, because it made a lot of people think a lot more on their feet and had to switch up some stuff, and it worked out well. And for me to work in a smaller ring like that, in a big crowd like that, it makes your guys look more imposing. They make them look bigger than life. So, for example, the Death Riders and Copeland and Jay White, when they all stood in the ring at the same time, that seemed like a moment, and it seemed like more of a moment because the ring was smaller. These guys look bigger. So I have no issue with it. And for everybody that's bashing it, and again, I'm not the biggest AEW fan. I'm a pro wrestling fan. And the one thing I've learned from Grand Slam over this past week is nobody hates professional wrestling more than professional wrestling fans.
100%.
They've got to find something wrong with something. They've got to nitpick it.
Yep.
Just like the fucking Raw on Netflix. Professional wrestling fans fucking nitpick that shit to hell. Granted, I'm right there with them with the fucking 4-match card. I can understand that. But why can't we just sit back and enjoy this? This was a major moment for AEW. This was one of their biggest gates. If I remember correctly, it was like the third biggest gate or fourth biggest gate in company history.
The place was packed. It was fucking rocking.
And tell me any other company besides the WWE or AEW that's going to sell out an arena like that overseas. I will fucking wait.
None.
Anybody? Exactly. TNA can never do it. New Japan can never do it. Or what, the UJWP or whatever the hell it's going to be. The United thing. Nobody can do it. So this was an absolute win for professional wrestling. And the fact that people are nitpicking this shit and tearing it apart, I don't want to use the word petty because I've told you countless times this is my year of being petty. This is childish. Just let them have the win.
Yeah, but that's the problem is that AEW is not allowed to have a win when it comes to. I don't know why everything has gotten so. I mean, I guess it's how this country is now. Everything is just so fucking divided. Like,
it's not even this dude. It was people in the UK doing it.
Yeah,
people in the UK were bashing the ring in the Grand Slam. So it's not just this country. It seems to be like just the community of professional wrestling fans, the IWC. It's just that divided.
I agree.
So let me share my thoughts, and I'm gonna make it short. And I want to hear what you guys think about this.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, Draven. But what about from like a business standpoint, like presentation wise? I didn't get to watch the show. It aired midnight for me, and I was asleep that night. I didn't get to watch it.
Mhm.
I heard the matches were great. They usually are. But when I saw pictures of it, I automatically just said, this looks kind of like mid. This looks to me like this is kind of a bad look, I thought. And I thought a company like AEW, who is on national TV, who this is where the best wrestle, isn't presentation. Everything shouldn't, like, at one point they should be more responsible when it comes to these types of things, because even before the show started, the way this thing was promoted, seemed to be a complete mess also. So, I mean, at what point do the fans have to
Well,
demand for like a better presentation?
well, there was a couple of things as it relates to the show. One, this show was never supposed to be televised on anything. It was strictly just a show. It's never supposed to be televised, really. And then I guess WBD wanted it, and that's why they call it Grand Slam and all this shit. So it wasn't supposed to be televised. Two, when the ring doesn't get there, it's not just the ring. It's the ring skirts. It's the barricades with the LED lights. It's everything that you see. Um, I'm surprised they got the shipment with their stage screens.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, at that point, there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's not like anyone carries like a spare ring with them. And even if they did, it would be on the same shipment. If you touch down someplace with less than 24 hours to go, you can't buy a new ring during that time. And I don't know how many pro wrestling shows are in Brisbane, but their pick, I mean, they did with. I mean, if it took Kyle Fletcher and like the native wrestlers to try to find a ring, and this is what they came up with, it's just what you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, I mean, the people in the crowd and the people who watched, I mean, they got a great show. You sometimes in business you got to deal with what you can. I mean, the microscopic scale, but we were supposed to have an interview last night and last minute pulled out, and we had to just make do with whatever the fuck we could come up with at the top of our head. So sometimes it's just shit can't be helped.
Yep.
No, yeah, you're right about that too. But also, we're talking about a major event that was being promoted months in advance. Like, there, it's just hard for me to believe that they didn't have a plan B for this. Like, they had so much time to plan this. Hey, let's reach out to some people out there in case this thing doesn't make it in time. I don't know. It just seems to me like an excuse. I know shit happens. I know, but like when you're at this level, you're making this much money and you're charging fans this much money for a ticket for your show. I don't think there's an excuse for this.
So you're also
They weren't in fucking Mississippi. It's not like if they have 3 rings in the company that they could just drive another one over. It I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's not like they didn't get great matches, so the ring wasn't normal. I mean,
and you're also with the pretext that there would happen to be a 20-foot by 20-foot ring within that area. I could tell you right now.
well, they run at 18, but still.
I could tell you right now, 8 out of 10 times I'm working a 16-foot ring in a show.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do I ever work at 18 or do I work at 20. Those from a price standpoint for an independent show, you're looking to spend about 3 or 4 more thousand for an 18 and then another maybe 4 or 5,000 for the 20.
Right.
So it's very common for 90% of independent shows to run 16-foot rings. I mean, that's just what it is. As far as the presentation goes, I kind of covered it already. To me, it felt more special because of the smaller ring. It made the guys think on their feet a lot more, especially the ones that are not used to working a 16. And like I said, Copeland's probably hasn't worked a 16-foot ring since 1995, but he looked fucking natural as fuck out there working it the other night.
Yeah.
Again, what they did is they made they did the best they could in a bad situation, and it worked out. Yes, unfortunately, there was one injury with the Buddy Matthews situation, but that's just happened a circumstance. That could have happened to anyone. I mean, again, when you're working with independent rings, it's best to let the guys that know that ring inside and out to do the fucking maintenance on it.
Right.
Even if that means going out there post every match and checking the ropes, checking the padding, checking the canvas, whatever the hell you got to do. But for me, and again, I'm not an AEW fan by any stretch of the imagination. The show seemed to be one of their best matches or best shows. The ring be damned.
I have a couple more questions for you guys about this.
Okay.
What like in your guys' experience or in your guys' opinion, is it any different wrestling in a in a ring 16 by 16 compared by 20 by 20? Like,
Oh
does it make
yes,
a difference? In
yes,
what
yes.
way?
Footwork. Footwork is a big thing. So I guess I'll pull the veil back a little bit on this one. When you're working a 16 by 16, especially when you're running the ropes, you usually take 3 big steps and you do a pivot. When you're working an 18, you kind of got to judge how wide your stances are, but usually you still get 3. 20 by 20, you just run until you hit the fucking ropes. I mean, I've only worked a 20 by 20 4 times, and I could never get the footing right.
Yeah.
So I didn't do a lot of running into the ropes and shit. But yes, it does make a difference. Am I more comfortable in an 18 footer? Yes, because that's what I was trained in. Can I work a 16? Yes. I've worked a fucking 12-foot ring before.
Oof.
It's just what it is. You just make the best of whatever situation you're given. Now, granted, I got paid a pretty good penny for that 12 by 12 ring. But yes, it does make a difference. The psychology of the match also makes a difference. For example, say you're used to working an 18 by 18, and that's all you work, and you do a particular maneuver. Your feet are going to be closer to the ropes because you have less of a diameter to work in. So your ring presence has to be more on point. So, yeah, to me it does.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I trained in 18 by 18 also, and to me, that's perfect.
Yes.
That's what WCW uses. That's what AEW uses. I
What
think
New
it's.
Wave
I think
uses.
that's the perfect size ring. You hit the ropes on the right step. It's perfect.
It flows.
16's not terrible. I don't hate it. It's just you have to watch your spacing a whole lot more because a backdrop can turn really bad if you're too close
Yep.
to the ropes.
If you
And
take flight.
and the thing about a 16 by 16 is you have to make sure most of your high spots are dead center of that ring. Otherwise, like he said, a basic backdrop is going to turn into a fucking nightmare.
Hell yeah, I bet. 2 more questions on this topic before we move on, if it's okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
If you're a top star in one of these shows, for example, if you're like a Kenny Omega or a Will Ospreay, and just that day you just find out, oh, we didn't get our regular size ring, we're actually wrestling a 16 by 16. At what point, like as a top star, do you say, well, I'm not gonna fucking do that, I'm not gonna go out there, or do you just say, fuck it, I'm just gonna whatever, take one for the team?
You do what your booker and promoter pays you to do, regardless of the size of the ring.
Yeah, I mean it's
Short, sweet, to the point.
the size of the ring shouldn't be a big enough deal to piss a professional wrestler off.
Unless it's 12 by 12.
Right. At which
But
point I can't
even
do anything.
no. Well, I really couldn't do anything either. It was just one of those things of, well, we're going to take a lot of this shit outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, you work with what you got.
And the final question about this: why do you guys think Tony Khan was getting booed?
I can't really speak on that too much because I haven't really followed a lot of what Tony.
I don't know because he booked a show that blew the rafters off that building. So I don't know why people give him such a hard time. I mean, that place.
Has he gone on anything or said anything retarded here lately?
Well, my prediction about that goes back to the way that the show was promoted. It was multiple fans were reporting that they thought that they were going to get a pay-per-view in a stadium, and then it went down to a collision in an arena. Other people are saying that it was because of the ring, and other people are saying that they were just doing it just to be funny. So there's many different things that people are saying about Tony Khan getting booed, but I think it was because of the way that the show was promoted.
Okay, so
Maybe.
let me, Dark, I'm going to ask you this because you watched the show. That card from top to bottom, did it have pay-per-view quality matches? At looking
I
at the
think
card.
there were no pay-per-view main events.
But would you say they were pay-per-view quality matches that would go on a pay-per-view?
A few of them, yeah.
So what's the fucking problem? I looked at the card, and God knows I've asked Sasha Banks or whatever the fuck she's called. But even the build up to her match was fucking good, and it made me kind of want to watch it.
I think people were expecting like something like what was the one that they did at Wembley All In?
Yeah.
You know, with all the stars and a fucking 5-hour show with like 10 matches. I think that's what people were expecting.
But the thing about that is they had a year to prep up and build up to All In. Either one of those shows. This one had what? 2 months? Maybe 3?
Nah, they've been talking about it for a while.
That's why
I
I
want to
said 2
say at
months, maybe
least
3.
6 months. At least.
But still,
I
you
don't
also
know
got to
about
factor.
that.
You've also got to factor in what Tony has on the books and what he needs to get over for the Revolution pay-per-view coming up. Because Revolution's in what? 4 weeks? Something like that?
It's
Not
earlier
sure.
than that. It's like like March 3rd.
Or how long do you think, Dark, that they've been promoted, that they promoted the show? Because I
I
could be
definitely
wrong. I'm
think
not
it's
exactly
been.
sure.
I think I remember it. In my mind, it was around November. So it's
Okay.
been a good 4 months, but I don't
Okay.
remember it well before that at all.
Gotcha.
Okay. So let me ask you this. At any point in time, was it ever, whether it was through social media, on television, through sponsorship, was it ever promoted as a pay-per-view?
No, it was always called Grand Slam, and that's always just a dynamite.
No, it was promoted as like a major stadium event, which
But
I guess that's what people confused it with. Oh, this is going to be a pay-per-view then. Because I don't think not
so
even the WWE does non-pay-per-views in stadiums. I think they only do it for like, Mania, SummerSlams, and maybe
but they
Rumbles.
never came out and said it's going to be live on pay-per-view.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So this goes back to what my granny used to tell me when I was young. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me.
Mhm.
Well, I think that I think it's very possible that they started off hoping it was going to be a stadium show. But
Okay.
are you gonna if you don't sell enough
Enough
tickets, you're
tickets.
not gonna do it with a half-empty stadium.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So even if it was originally planned to be a stadium show,
Let me see. Let me see if I
probably
can
only
pull up.
filled, it obviously filled up the arena, but it might not have made that big of a dent in a stadium. I have no idea.
And Grandma Draven is right. If you assume you make an ass out of you and me, just like Tony assumed his ring would get there on time, but obviously that didn't happen.
Well,
But
I mean,
again,
if
that's
the shipping people say, yeah, this is how long it takes because this is what we do every single day of our lives, so we should know. And he goes, all right, sounds good. You're the experts, and then it doesn't show up. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
yeah. Again,
Shout out to Grandma Draven.
God rest her soul. I'm trying to see if I can pick up where their fucking head count was. Dark, do you remember the head count right offhand for Grand Slam?
No, I don't.
Either way,
I
I've
think it was like
seen.
14 or 15,000, if somewhere around there.
Okay, so they It's got a big venue. I mean, it's still an absolute fucking win considering the past 2 months they've only been doing 2,500 to 3,000 seat arenas.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fucking win for the company. People need to quit being fucking childish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was the elephant in the room when it came to Grand Slam.
All right.
Was those things.
Before we move on, let's have a quick commercial break and we will be back.